My name is Diana Hensley. I'm 27 years old. Last Thanksgiving, my mother stood in front of 25 of our relatives and asked them to vote on whether I deserved to stay in our family. Every single hand went up against me. She looked at me across the room. This woman who raised me, who packed my school lunches, who taught me to ride a bike, and she said, "We've been carrying your dead weight for 27 years, Diana. Now it's over." I thought that was the worst moment of my life. I was wrong. Because 30 seconds later, the front door opened, and a man none of us had seen in 14 years walked in carrying a briefcase. And what was inside that briefcase made every person in that room unable to look my mother in the eye ever again. Before I go on, if you end up connecting with this story, please take a moment to like and subscribe, but only if you genuinely feel it. And tell me in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is right now. I'd love to know. Now let me take you back to last November, the Wednesday night before Thanksgiving, when I almost decided not to go. I'm sitting in my car in my mother's driveway, engine still running, hands locked on the steering wheel at 10 and 2, like I'm about to take a driving test. The house is lit up. Every window. I can see shadows moving behind the curtains. And I already know who's where. Mom in the kitchen running the show, Dad somewhere quiet with a beer, my sister Megan setting the table because she always sets the table. I should go in. I know I should go in. But last year sits in my chest like a stone. Last Thanksgiving, right between the turkey and the pumpkin pie, my mother announced to the entire table, "Diana's salary probably can't even cover her own groceries, let alone what she owes us." Nobody said a word. Not my dad, not my sister, and not a single aunt or uncle or cousin. They just kept chewing. Here's what kills me. I'm a school counselor. I've been financially independent since I was 18. I took out my own student loans. I pay my own rent, my own car insurance, my own everything. I have never, not once, asked my family for money. But my mother tells people I did. And they believe her. Every single time. My phone buzzes. A text from Megan. "Mom's been cooking since 5 a.m. Don't be late, you know how she gets." I know how she gets. That's exactly the problem. I turn off the engine, open the door. The November air bites my face. I tell myself what I always tell myself. Just get through the meal. Smile. Don't react. 4 hours, then you're free. I'm halfway up the porch steps when I hear her voice from inside the kitchen. "Oh, she actually showed up this year. Gerald, set one more plate, the cheap ones." I don't know why this year feels different, but standing on that porch, then hand on the door handle, something in my gut whispers, "Tonight is not going to go the way you think." The dining room is packed. 25 relatives crammed around a table meant for 16, extra folding chairs dragged in from the garage. My mother sits at the head. She always sits at the head, with my father Gerald on her right and my sister Megan on her left, the queen and her court. I get the seat at the end, near the kitchen door, next to my little cousins, who are arguing over a crayon. Mom stands for the blessing. She folds her hands, bows her head, and says, "Lord, we thank you for this family, for the ones who carry the weight and the ones who," she pauses just long enough to glance at me, "who we carry. Amen." A few people shift in their seats. Nobody corrects her. I pick up my fork and focus on my plate, but I can feel it. Something's off tonight. Aunt Martha won't make eye contact with me. Cousin Kyle looks at me, then looks away fast, as like he's been caught. Uncle Ted and Aunt Ruth are whispering at the far end of the table, and when I look up, they stop. It hits me. They know something I don't. Whatever this is, it was discussed before I walked in. I try to shake it off. I turn to my cousin Jenna, Uncle Robert's daughter, one of the few people at these things who actually talks to me like a person. She's 25, kind, and she looks nervous tonight. She keeps glancing at the front door. "You okay?" I whisper. Jenna leans close. "I almost didn't come either. My dad, he said something might happen tonight." Then she stops, mid-sentence, because my mother is staring at us from across the table. Jenna picks up her water glass and says nothing else. "Uncle Robert, he hasn't come to Thanksgiving in 14 years. Why would Jenna mention him now?" My mother smiles at the room. "I hope everyone saved room. We have a little family matter to discuss after dessert." Halfway through dinner, but my mother sets down her fork, dabs her lips with a napkin, and turns to me with that smile. The one she uses when she's about to draw blood in public but wants to look like she's asking about the weather. So, Diana, how's the apartment? Still managing on that little paycheck of yours? A ripple of quiet laughter runs down the table. Not mean laughter, polite laughter. The kind people do when they're following the leader. I'm doing fine, Mom. Thank you. She doesn't stop. Bet she turns to Aunt Ruth. You know, I've been keeping a running tab of everything we've spent on her over the years. She shakes her head, slow, theatrical. It's quite a number. Running tab. The words hit me like cold water. I've never heard this before. There is no tab. There has never been a tab. I look at Megan. She's staring at her plate like it holds the answer to the universe. I look at my father. He's sawing at a piece of turkey, jaw tight, eyes down. They know. They already know what's coming. And then it clicks. Mom didn't just cook dinner today. She made phone calls. She had conversations. She met people for coffee, whispered over the phone, probably showed them that, whatever she's about to show the room. This table isn't Thanksgiving dinner. It's a courtroom. And I walked in without a lawyer. Mom reaches into the pocket of her cardigan and pulls out a folded piece of paper. She holds it up just for a second, doesn't open it, doesn't read it, then tucks it back. I've got the numbers right here, but we'll get to that later. She picks her fork back up and takes a bite of green bean casserole, like she hasn't just detonated a grenade under my chair. My hands start shaking under the table. I press them flat against my thighs and breathe. That piece of paper. I don't know what's on it yet. But I know one thing. My mother never bluffs without an audience. There's an empty chair in the corner of the living room. A brown leather recliner, cracked at the armrest. Nobody sits in it. It used to belong to my grandfather. Grandma and Grandpa Caldwell died when I was 13. Car accident on Route 9, coming home from church on a Sunday morning. One phone call and they were gone. Both of them. Just like that. They were the only people in this family who made me feel like I was enough. Grandma used to call me our little counselor, because even as a kid, I'd sit on the porch with her and listen to her talk about her day. Not fix anything, just listen. She'd pat my hand and say, "Don't let anyone make you small, Diana. Promise me that." I promised. After the funeral, my mother took over everything. She was the executor of their estate, the house, the savings, whatever they'd left behind. I was 13. I didn't understand wills or probate or bank accounts. I just knew that one day, Uncle Robert, my mom's older brother, the man who used to take me fishing every summer, started a fight with my mother at the kitchen table. Voices low but sharp. 2 weeks later, he was gone. No more Thanksgivings. No more fishing trips. No more birthday cards. Mom told everyone Robert was jealous. He wanted more than his share, she said. He's always been like that. And everyone nodded. I look across the table at Jenna now, Robert's daughter, and I see her father's eyes. Steady. A little sad. But she's typing something on her phone under the table, shielding the screen with her hand. I remember something else, a detail I haven't thought about in years. Grandma once mentioned a savings account. Set aside for the grandkids' education, she said. After they died, Mom told me it was nothing. Barely enough to cover the funeral costs. I was 13. I believed her. Dinner ends, plates get stacked, the kids run off to the den, and then, instead of coffee and pie, my mother claps her hands twice, like she's calling a meeting to order, and says, "Everyone, please move to the living room. There's something we need to discuss as a family." The living room. I step in and freeze. The furniture has been rearranged, chairs pulled into a wide circle, the coffee table pushed to the side. This isn't spontaneous. She set this up before anyone arrived. I think about leaving, right now, grab my coat, walk out the front door, drive home. But I know what happens if I do. Mom shakes her head, sighs that long sigh, turns to the room and says, "See? She always runs. She can never face responsibility." And by morning, every relative in the circle will believe that version. My version won't exist because I won't be here to tell it. But if I stay, I'm sitting in a trial I didn't agree to. I think about Millfield. 8,000 people. I work at the elementary school. Parents know me. If my family turns their back on me publicly, then the rumors will follow me to work, to the grocery store, to every sidewalk in this town. That's how small towns work. Your family's opinion becomes everyone's opinion. I look for my father. Gerald is sitting in the second row of chairs, not front, not back, holding a Coors Light like it's a life raft. He doesn't look at me. He hasn't looked at me since dinner. My mother stands in the center of the circle, smoothing the front of her blouse. She puts on her reading glasses. She pulls out that folded piece of paper. Her voice trembles, just slightly, just enough. I know this is hard, but I've been carrying this burden alone for too long. Tonight, I need the family's help to make a decision. The tremble is perfect, rehearsed. I've watched her do it 100 times, at church fundraisers, at parent-teacher conferences, at the bank when she needed a fee waived. That tremble is a tool, but nobody else sees it. They just see a tired mother asking for help. As my mother unfolds the paper, slowly, like she's handling something sacred. I've put this off for years, she says. But Diana needs to hear this. You all need to hear this. She begins to read. Her voice is steady, clear. A woman delivering facts, not accusations. That's the trick. She always sounds reasonable. Item 1. The cost of raising Diana from birth through age 18. Housing, food, clothing, medical. At adjusted total, $112,000. She glances up to make sure the room is listening. It is. Item 2. College financial support that Diana has never repaid. Tuition supplements, books, emergency funds. Total, $23,000. My throat tightens. I didn't receive a cent for college. I took out loans. I worked 2 jobs sophomore year. There were no tuition supplements. There were no emergency funds. Item 3. She pauses for effect. Diana's share of expenses drawn from your grandparents' estate. Medical bills, transportation, miscellaneous support. Total, $18,000. She folds the paper, looks at the room. That's over $50,000. $50,000 that this family has invested in someone who has never once said thank you. The room is quiet. Aunt Ruth nods slowly. Uncle Ted crosses his arms. Cousin Kyle stares at the carpet. I open my mouth. Mom, that's not... I never... Please let me finish. Her hand goes up, palm out. You'll have your turn. But she keeps talking. She turns to Aunt Ruth. Do you remember when I had to sell Mom's silver tea set? That was to cover Diana's dental bills. Ruth remembers, or thinks she does. I never had dental bills paid by my mother. I've been on my own insurance since I was 22. But it doesn't matter. The room believes her. I can see it in their faces. Tight lips, folded arms, eyes that slide off me like I'm something unpleasant. I won't get my turn. I already know that. While my mother folds her reading glasses and tucks them into her pocket. She looks around the circle, every face one by one, and when she speaks, her voice drops to something almost gentle. I've thought about this for a long time, and I think it's only fair that we, as a family, vote on whether Diana should continue to be part of our gatherings, our traditions, and any future family decisions. The words don't register at first. Vote, she said vote. You're asking them to vote me out? My voice sounds far away, like it belongs to someone else. Of our family? I'm asking them to vote on what's fair. This family has suffered enough. I look at Megan. My sister, my older sister who I shared a bedroom with for 16 years, stares at her own hands in her lap. She doesn't move. I look at my father. Gerald examines the floor like he's never seen hardwood before. I look around the room. 25 faces. These are people I've cooked Thanksgiving sides for, people whose kids I've babysat on weekends, Cousin Kyle, who I drove to his SATs because his car broke down, Aunt Martha, who I called every Sunday for 6 months after her hip surgery, Uncle Ted, who I helped move into his new apartment last spring. Not one of them says, "This is insane, Patricia. You can't vote someone out of a family." Not one. And I understand all at once, felt like a window breaking, that my mother didn't decide this tonight. She campaigned. She called each of them. She presented her version, her numbers, her tears. This vote was decided before I parked my car in the driveway. Mom! My voice cracks, but I push through. I paid my own way through college. I've never asked you for a single dollar. She turns to the room and shakes her head. Sad, patient. A woman dealing with a difficult child. See, this is what she does. She rewrites history. And that's exactly why we're here. I want to pause here for a second, because standing in that circle, listening to my mother rewrite my entire life in front of people I loved, there was a moment where I thought, am I wrong? Have I really been a burden this whole time and just didn't see it? 27 years of hearing it. When everyone around you believes the same story, you start wondering if maybe, just maybe, the lie is true. I need to ask you something. Have you ever had someone repeat a lie about you so many times that you started questioning your own memory? That you started thinking, maybe I do owe them something? Tell me in the comments. I need to know I'm not the only one. Okay, back to that living room. My mother clasps her hands in front of her like a church elder calling for tithes. All in favor of removing Diana from family events, property claims, and financial obligations? Raise your hand. The room holds its breath. 1 second. 2. Aunt Ruth's hand goes up first, straight and sure, like she's been waiting for permission. Then Aunt Martha. Then Uncle Ted. Then Cousin Kyle, who won't look at me while he does it. I count. 10. Cousin Brenda. Cousin Tom. Tom's wife, who I've met exactly 3 times. 15. Great Aunt Peggy, who I drove to her optometrist appointment last March. Second cousin Alan. Yeah, who borrowed my jumper cables 2 winters ago and never returned them. 20. The hands keep rising. Slow, fast, reluctant, firm. It doesn't matter. They all go up. I watch my sister. Megan's jaw is tight. Her hand lifts halfway, pauses, then rises the rest of the way. She still won't look at me. 25. My mother counts them out loud, slowly, deliberately, like reading names at a roll call. Ruth, Martha, Ted, Kyle, Brenda, Tom. Every name a nail. Then she reaches the end of her count and turns to the last person who hasn't raised his hand. Gerald? My father is sitting very still. The Coors light in his hand has gone warm. He stares at the can. The room waits. Gerald. Softer this time. An instruction dressed as a question. My father doesn't look at me. He looks at the floor, at the wall, at his own shoes. And then, slowly, like his arm weighs 1,000 pounds, he raises his hand. My dad. The man who taught me to tie my shoes. Who carried me on his shoulders at the county fair. That hand raised against me. 26. I am standing in a room full of family, and I have never been more alone in my life. My mother surveys the room. 26 hands. She nods, not triumphant, not smug, satisfied. The nod of a woman who has confirmed what she already knew. She turns to me. The room goes so quiet I can hear the kitchen clock ticking through the wall. Someone's child laughs in the den down the hall. And then the sound feels like it belongs to a different universe. We've been carrying your dead weight for 27 years, Diana. Her voice is low, controlled, almost kind. It's over. Nobody breathes. I feel the blood rise in my face, my ears ring, my legs want to move but they've forgotten how. 26 people just told me I don't belong, and my mother is standing in the center of this circle like she's delivered a mercy. She straightens her posture. I've already spoken with a lawyer. You will no longer be welcome at family gatherings, and any claim you think you have on this family's resources, consider it void. A lawyer? The word comes out before I can stop it. For what? For protecting this family. From you. She says it so simply, like she's locking a door. I look around the room one more time. Aunt Ruth is studying her fingernails. Kyle is staring at the ceiling. Megan has her arms wrapped around herself like she's cold. My father's hand is back in his lap now, but the damage is done. I think, this is it. This is the night I lose my family. I turn toward the front door. My coat is on the hook. My keys are in my pocket. 3 steps, and I'm gone. I take the first step, and that's when the front door opens. A gust of November air sweeps through the room. Cold, sharp, the kind of cold that makes you pay attention. A man steps inside, gray hair, worn jacket, and in his right hand, a battered leather briefcase. Well, I haven't seen Uncle Robert in 14 years, but I'd know him anywhere. The broad shoulders, the quiet way he stands in a doorway like he's asking the room for nothing. His hair is almost white now. He's thinner than I remember, but his eyes are the same, Steady, patient, like a man who learned a long time ago that silence is sometimes louder than shouting. Every head in the living room turns. Someone gasps. I think it's Aunt Martha. But my mother's face, I'll remember this for the rest of my life, goes blank. Not angry, not surprised. Blank. Like someone pulled the plug on whatever performance she was running. It lasts half a second, maybe less, and then she rebuilds. Smile back on. Shoulders squared. But I saw it. That half second of naked fear. Robert steps inside and closes the door behind him. He looks around the room slowly. His eyes land on Jenna first. His daughter gives him a small nod. Then on me. Yes, then on Patricia. I wasn't invited. His voice is calm. Gravel low. I know. My mother recovers fast. Robert, this is a family matter. You gave up your right to... Funny. He pulls a chair from the wall and sits down, sets the briefcase on his knees. I remember a time when I was family. Jenna stands and moves to the chair beside him. Nobody stops her. My mother takes a step forward. Her voice drops. Not soft, not gentle, cold. Whatever you came here to do, Robert. Don't! He looks at her. Then he looks at the briefcase. Then he looks at me. And when he speaks, his voice breaks just slightly on the first word. I should have done this years ago, Diana. I'm sorry it took so long. My mother's knuckles go white around the back of the chair she's gripping. And I realize, for the first time in my entire life, I am watching my mother afraid. Truly deeply afraid. What is in that briefcase? Robert doesn't rush. And he rests his hands on the briefcase like he's done this in his head 1,000 times, and now that the moment is here, he wants to get it right. He looks at the room, not at Patricia, at everyone else. 14 years ago, our parents died. His voice is steady, measured. Mom and Dad Caldwell. Most of you were at the funeral. Patricia became the executor of their estate. She handled the house, the accounts, the distribution. I trusted her. He pauses. All of us trusted her. Aunt Ruth shifts in her seat. Uncle Ted uncrosses his arms. Mom and Dad left behind an estate worth roughly $360,000. The house, 2 savings accounts, and a separate fund, $40,000, earmarked specifically for their grandchildren's education. Diana and Megan. I feel the air leave my lungs. $40,000, Grandma's education fund, the one Mom said barely covered the funeral costs. Robert continues. 6 months after the funeral, I asked Patricia to see the distribution paperwork. She told me everything had been handled. Taxes and funeral expenses ate most of it, she said. Nothing left to split. He pauses again. I believed her. For a while. My mother's voice cuts in, sharp. Robert, don't! He raises one hand. Not aggressive, just firm, like a stop sign. Patty, I kept quiet for 14 years. Let me speak. The room is frozen. Nobody texts, nobody fidgets. Even the clock seems louder. Then one day, and a bank statement arrived at Mom and Dad's old house, the one I was fixing up to sell, addressed to their estate account, an account that was supposed to be closed. He looks at Patricia. She's gripping the chair so hard her knuckles have gone from white to yellow. That statement showed withdrawals, dozens of them, all going to one personal account. He doesn't say the name. He doesn't need to. Every pair of eyes in the room slides toward my mother. And the name on that account, Patricia. He's lying. He has always been, Robert, was Patricia Ann Hensley. The room splits open like a fault line. Whispers start at the edges. Low, fast, the kind of murmuring that happens when people are trying to figure out whose side to be on. Aunt Martha leans forward in her chair. Patty, is this true? My mother's response is instant, practiced. He's lying. He's always been jealous of me. And Mom and Dad loved me more, and he's never gotten over it. It's the same line she used 14 years ago, word for word. I know because I've heard her rehearse it at every family gathering Robert's name came up, but something is different this time. Cousin Kyle looks at Robert, then at Patricia, and for the first time tonight, he doesn't nod along with my mother. His hands are clasped between his knees, and he's thinking. Actually, thinking. Megan is staring at our mother with an expression I've never seen on her face before, like she's doing math in her head, and the numbers aren't adding up. Mom paid for Megan's entire college education, said it came from savings. Megan never questioned where. My father lifts his head. He looks at his wife, then at Robert, then at the briefcase. His hand, the one he raised against me 5 minutes ago, is trembling. Patricia pivots. She steps to the center of the circle, but positions herself between Robert and the room, and opens her arms slightly. The wronged mother, the accused innocent. This is exactly what he did 14 years ago. He tried to turn everyone against me then, and he's doing it again. Robert doesn't argue. He doesn't raise his voice. He simply says, "I don't need you to believe me. I have paperwork." He rests his hand on the briefcase, doesn't open it, just lets it sit there. My mother's voice goes tight as a wire. "If you open that, Robert, I swear." She doesn't finish the sentence. And that silence, that unfinished threat, tells the room more than any document could. Because she didn't say the papers were fake, she didn't say they were wrong, she just didn't want them opened. Robert unclasps the briefcase. The sound is small, 2 metal snaps, but in this room, it lands like a gunshot. Inside, the documents are organized with colored tabs, blue, yellow, red, 14 years of patience, sorted and labeled. And he pulls the first one, holds it up so the room can see. This is the original will of Henry and Margaret Caldwell, our parents. He sets it on the coffee table. Patricia told the family this document was lost. It wasn't. She filed a different version with the probate court. My mother. That will was amended before they... Robert reaches back into the briefcase. Funny you should say that. He lays a second document beside the first, side by side, 2 wills, same names. Different signatures. The one on the left is the original, notarized, witnessed. The one on the right is the version Patricia submitted to probate. He taps the second document. Take a look at the signatures. Cousin Kyle leans forward. Aunt Martha stands up to get a closer look. Even from across the room I can see it. The handwriting on the second will is tighter, more controlled. It doesn't match. My hands go cold. $40,000. That was supposed to be mine and Megan's. Wow, for school. For the future Grandma wanted us to have. Robert pulls a third document from the briefcase. A single page with a letterhead. I hired a forensic handwriting examiner. Certified, licensed. Here's her report. He sets it on the table. The signatures on the amended will are not consistent with Henry or Margaret Caldwell's known handwriting. The room has gone so silent I can hear the refrigerator humming in the kitchen. My mother hasn't moved. She's standing very still, one hand pressed against her collarbone, and for the first time tonight, she has no words. Robert looks at her, then at the room, then at me. I'm not guessing, Patty. I've spent 14 years making sure every page in this folder is certified. Robert reaches into the briefcase one more time. This time it's a stack of bank statements. Not photocopies, originals, stamped and dated. He fans them across the coffee table like a dealer laying out cards. These are certified records from First National, the estate account of Henry and Margaret Caldwell. His finger traces down the first page. Starting 3 months after the funeral, withdrawals begin. $12,000, $15,000, $10,000, always transferred to the same personal checking account. He flips to the next page, and the next, each one showing the same pattern, money leaving the estate, landing in the same place. Over the course of 2 years, $180,000 was moved out of our parents' estate. $180,000. He looks up. Patricia's name is on the receiving account, her social security number, her signature on every transfer authorization. The silence is so complete, I can hear the refrigerator humming through the kitchen wall. My mother breaks first. Those are forged. He fabricated. These are bank-certified records, Patty. Stamped, dated, your account number, your name. Aunt Ruth, the woman who raised her hand before anyone else, who nodded along to every word my mother said, is staring at the statements with her mouth slightly open. Her hand, the one that voted me out, has dropped to her lap. My father speaks. For the first time all night, Gerald Hensley opens his mouth. Patty? One word. But it's not the voice of a man who's going along with things anymore. It's the voice of a man who just realized the floor beneath him isn't solid. Patty, answer me. Is any of this true? My mother doesn't answer him. And she turns to the room instead, scanning for allies, reaching for the old playbook. He's always been jealous. Our parents loved me more, and he couldn't, but Aunt Ruth cuts her off, quietly, almost gently. Patty, did you use Mom and Dad's money? I watch my mother shift strategies in real time. It happens fast, like changing lanes on a highway. The accused becomes the martyr. Her shoulders drop, her chin trembles, tears pool in her eyes, and I honestly can't tell if they're real. Do you know how hard it was? Her voice breaks beautifully. Managing everything alone after Mom and Dad died? Robert walked away. Gerald didn't help. I did everything. The funeral, the paperwork, the house, the taxes, all of it fell on me. She presses a hand to her chest. Maybe I made some mistakes, but everything I did for this family. For a moment, just a moment, I see some of the relatives softening. Aunt Martha's face flickers. Uncle Ted looks at the floor. It's working. The performance is working. Then Robert speaks. Mistakes. The word comes out flat and hard. You forged their signatures, Patricia. You rewrote their will. You stole $180,000 from your own dead parents. He pauses. Each sentence is a brick. And then you told everyone that Diana, a 13-year-old girl, was the reason the money was gone. That last sentence lands like a slap. I watch it hit the room, face by face, chair by chair. Aunt Martha's softness vanishes. Uncle Ted's jaw tightens. 25 people are looking at me now, the girl who 5 minutes ago they voted to throw away. And they're doing the math they should have done years ago. My mother explodes. Get out of my house, Robert! Get out! Robert stands up, slowly. He picks up his coat, but before he leaves, he places the entire folder, every document, every statement, every report, in the center of the coffee table. I'm leaving. His voice doesn't waver. But these papers aren't. Megan pulls her chair forward. She picks up a bank statement, reads it. Her hands are shaking. She looks up at our mother. Her voice is small but clear as glass. Mom, the tuition you said you paid for me, that came from Grandma and Grandpa's money, didn't it? My mother stares at Megan. Her mouth opens. Nothing comes out. The room fractures. Half the family is clustered around the coffee table, passing documents hand to hand, reading in silence. The other half sits frozen, watching Patricia like they're seeing her for the first time. Cousin Kyle is the first to move. He pushes out of his chair, crosses the room, and stops in front of me. His face is flushed. His voice is rough. I didn't know. Diana, I'm sorry. I nod. I can't speak yet. My mother sees him standing with me, and something breaks behind her eyes. She turns to my father, grabs his arm. Gerald, say something. I tell them this is a misunderstanding. Gerald looks at his wife. It's the longest I've ever seen him hold her gaze, and then he shakes his head. I can't, Patty. I can't do that. 5 words, the most important 5 words my father has ever spoken. And they're 14 years too late. But they're here. Aunt Ruth stands and walks out of the room without a word. I hear the front door open and close. Aunt Martha follows 30 seconds later, pulling on her coat with quick, angry movements. One by one, people begin to leave. Not all of them, but enough. Enough to turn my mother's living room, her stage, her courtroom, into something small and empty. Patricia stands in the center of the circle that isn't a circle anymore. Chairs pushed back, seats abandoned. The documents sit on the coffee table like evidence at a crime scene that nobody's cleaned up yet. Nobody looks at her. They're either reading, leaving, or talking to each other in low voices. She's become invisible in her own house. I stand in the corner, next to the empty recliner where my grandfather used to sit. And for the first time in 27 years, I am not the one being overlooked. I didn't say a word. I didn't need to. The papers said everything I never could. Robert finds me on the back porch. I've stepped outside because the living room feels like a building after an earthquake. Everything's still standing but nothing in the right place. And Megan and Jenna follow him out. The 4 of us sit on the porch steps in the cold, breath clouding in the November air, and Robert tells me the rest. Your grandparents set aside $40,000 specifically for you and Megan. Education fund. It was in the original will, clear as day. He rubs his hands together. Patricia liquidated it within a year of their death, used it to remodel her kitchen and master bathroom. The renovation she told everyone she'd been saving for. The kitchen I've eaten Thanksgiving dinner in every year. The kitchen she cooked tonight's meal in, built with money that was mine. She needed a cover story, Robert says, so she started telling people that you were expensive, that you were a financial drain. You were 13, Diana. You couldn't defend yourself. You didn't even know there was money to defend. Megan is crying. Quiet tears, no sound. As she's hugging her knees on the step below me, I ask the question that's been building for an hour. Why didn't you say something sooner? Robert's face tightens. I tried. 14 years ago, I confronted her. She told the family I was an alcoholic, that I was jealous, that I wanted more than my share. His voice drops. Everyone believed her. I lost everything. Holidays, birthdays, watching Jenna grow up around her cousins. I lost this family. He looks at the briefcase sitting beside him on the porch. I needed evidence that couldn't be denied. Bank-certified records, a handwriting expert, a lawyer's review. That takes time. And money I didn't have much of. He puts his hand on my shoulder. I didn't gather these papers to destroy Patty. I gathered them so you could know the truth. What happens next? That's up to this family. Megan wipes her face with the back of her hand and stands up without a word. As she walks back inside, I watch her through the screen door. She crosses the living room to where our mother is sitting alone on the sofa. Patricia looks smaller now. The overhead light catches every line on her face, every bit of mascara that's smudged. The queen without her court. Megan stands in front of her, doesn't sit. Mom, look at me. Patricia looks up. Did you pay for my college with Grandma and Grandpa's money? I did what I had to do. Megan. That's not an answer. You got your degree, didn't you? A flash of the old Patricia, defiant, certain. You got your life. I gave you that. You gave me that by stealing from Diana, from Uncle Robert, from Grandma and Grandpa. Don't you turn on me too. My mother's voice rises to a pitch I recognize, the warning tone, the one that used to make us both go quiet as children. I am your mother. Megan doesn't flinch. And Diana is my sister. She turns and walks back to the porch, sits down beside me. For a long time, neither of us speaks. Then she says it, quietly, like she's admitting something she's been carrying for years. There was a time Mom told me not to lend you money. She said you'd never pay it back. Megan's voice cracks. You called me once. Your car broke down. You needed $200, and I said no. I remember. A Tuesday night in October. Rain so heavy I could barely see the road. As I walked 3 miles home because my sister said no, because my mother told her to. I didn't know, Megan whispers. I swear I didn't. I believe you. She leans her head against my shoulder. We sit like that, in the cold, listening to the sounds of a family rearranging itself inside. I was the golden child, she says finally, and I didn't even earn it. I drive home around 10. The house empties slowly behind me. People leaving in ones and twos, coats pulled tight. Car doors closing in the dark. By midnight, my phone has 6 messages. Cousin Kyle calls first. His voice is thick, like he's been sitting in his truck in the driveway working up the nerve. Diana, I should have asked questions. I should have said something when she asked us to raise our hands. I didn't. I'm sorry. Aunt Martha sends a long text. 3 paragraphs. She says she believed Patricia because your mother always sounded so certain. She always had the details. Martha doesn't ask for forgiveness. She just says she was wrong. Jenna hugs me before she leaves the porch. She holds on tight and whispers in my ear. My dad never stopped talking about you. Every birthday, every holiday, he'd say your name. Cousin David calls, short, direct. I messed up. If you need anything, a meal, help moving, whatever, I'm here. Aunt Ruth comes back, 11 o'clock at night, headlights in the driveway. She walks up the porch steps where I'm still sitting with Megan, and she wraps her arms around me for 30 seconds without saying a single word. When she lets go, her eyes are red. And then there's Megan. My sister doesn't leave. She sits with me on that porch until past midnight. We don't solve anything. We don't make grand declarations. We just talk. Really talk. for the first time in years without the filter of our mother between us. I say the same thing to each of them. Thank you for calling. I mean that. But an apology doesn't erase a raised hand. I'm going to need time before I know what this means for us. There is one person who doesn't call, doesn't text, doesn't apologize. My father, Gerald Hensley, gets in his truck after Robert leaves and drives away. I don't know where he goes. I won't find out until 2 days later. I drive home the long way. Past the elementary school where I work. Past the diner where I eat lunch on Fridays. But past the gas station where I fill up my 10-year-old Honda every Sunday. And past my mother's house. The kitchen light is still on. Through the window I can see her. A single silhouette sitting at the dining table. Plates still out. Chairs still arranged in that circle. The woman who commanded a room of 25 people 4 hours ago is sitting alone in a kitchen she renovated with stolen money, surrounded by leftovers nobody stayed to eat. I don't stop. At home, I sit in the dark of my apartment. The apartment she mocked, the paycheck she belittled, the life she told everyone was a failure. And I think about my mother. Not with hatred, not with satisfaction, just with the heavy, complicated exhaustion of finally understanding. Patricia Hensley grew up in a family that measured people by what they could provide. Love was conditional. Value was financial. She learned to control because she was terrified of being controlled. It doesn't excuse a single thing she did, but it explains the machinery. Understanding why someone hurt you doesn't mean you have to let them keep doing it. I open my laptop. I search for therapists within 30 miles. I find one in the next town, Dr. Karen Webb, licensed family counselor, Monday availability. I book the first appointment. At 2 a.m., my phone lights up. A text from my mother. You turned my family against me. I read it once. I read it twice. I put the phone down. And then I delete the message and go to bed. For 27 years, I was the problem. Tonight, the problem sat alone in her own kitchen. And I, for the first time I can remember, slept through the night. Sunday morning, 2 days after Thanksgiving. I'm making coffee when the doorbell rings. My father stands on the mat, unshaved, eyes rimmed red, wearing the same flannel shirt he had on Thursday night, wrinkled now like he slept in his truck, which, knowing my father, he probably did. I drove to the lake house, he says, sat there 2 days, thinking. I step aside and let him in. He sits at my kitchen table, the small one, the one that seats two, and looks around my apartment. I watch him take it in, the second-hand couch, the bookshelf I built from cinder blocks and planks, the school counselor certification framed on the wall. He's never been here before. In 3 years of me living alone, my father has never once visited. I knew something was off with the estate. He stares at his hands. I saw the renovation bills. I asked your mother once. She said Robert had agreed to give us his share. He pauses. I believed her because it was easier. He closes his eyes. Yes. We sit in silence. The coffee maker drips. Gerald tells me he called Robert this morning. First time they've spoken in 14 years. 2 men on the phone, both crying, neither one able to start the sentence they needed to say. That Robert sent him copies of everything. The will, the statements, the handwriting report. Gerald read every page. I'm not asking you to forgive me, he says. I just want you to know. I'm done being quiet. I look at my father, 56 years old, hands that trembled when he raised them against his own daughter, hands that are trembling now for a different reason. Dad, I love you, but love doesn't cancel out what happened. I need you to show me, not tell me, that things are different now. He nods. He doesn't argue. He doesn't make promises he can't keep. And for my father, that's a start. The following Tuesday, I sit in a small office on Main Street in Clearfield, the next town over, across from a woman named Evelyn Moore. Family law attorney. Robert is beside me, the briefcase open on her desk between us. Evelyn reviews the documents one by one, making small notes in the margins. She's methodical. Oh, unhurried. After 20 minutes, she sets her pen down. This is estate fraud, clean and well documented. She looks at Robert. Mr. Caldwell, the evidence you've compiled is thorough. The forged signatures alone would be significant, but combined with the bank records and the handwriting analysis, this is a strong case. She explains our options plainly. Robert and I both have grounds for a civil claim to recover the misappropriated funds. Additionally, though forging a will is a felony, the district attorney's office would make the decision on criminal charges, not us. Robert speaks first. I don't want Patty in prison, but I want the money returned to the people it belongs to. I agree. I'm not here for revenge. I'm here for the $40,000 that my grandparents set aside for my education, money I didn't know existed while I was working 2 jobs and taking out student loans. Evelyn draws up the paperwork. I read every line. Robert signs. I sign. And no speeches, no dramatic declarations, just paper, ink, and a legal process doing what it's designed to do. Walking to my car afterward, I feel something I don't expect. Not triumph, not vindication. Relief. The quiet kind. The kind that comes from knowing you didn't make this up. That you weren't the burden. That the numbers were never yours. I didn't sue my mother for revenge. I filed a claim because $40,000 was taken from me before I was old enough to know it existed. And because someone has to say, this was wrong. News travels fast in a town of 8,000. By the second week of December, the story has made its way through every church pew and grocery aisle in Millfield. The first visible shift, Aunt Ruth announces she's hosting Christmas at her house. Robert is invited. Patricia is not. Nobody argues. Nobody even hesitates. My mother fights back the only way she knows how, the phone. She calls every relative one by one. They're working the list she's worked for decades. But this time, most calls go to voicemail. The few who answer keep it short. Patty, we need time. Patty, I don't know what to say right now. Click. At Grace Lutheran, where Patricia has sat in the second pew, left side, every Sunday for 20 years, things shift. People don't confront her. They just rearrange. A 2-seat gap opens beside her, then 3 seats, then the whole pew. Nobody says it out loud. They don't have to. Space speaks. She posts a long message on Facebook, something about betrayal, about family turning their backs, about sacrifice being punished. Megan comments within the hour, "Mom, please stop. You're making it worse." Patricia deletes the post by evening. Gerald moves to the living room couch. He doesn't file for separation, not yet, but the master bedroom door stays closed, and he sleeps under a quilt his mother-in-law made 30 years ago. He starts calling Robert every week. Like 2 men rebuilding a bridge, 1 phone call at a time. Then in late December, a letter arrives at my apartment from Patricia's attorney. She's agreed to negotiate a settlement. She doesn't want to go to court. It's the first time in my mother's life she's chosen to back down. And the only reason she's doing it is because, for the first time, she can't control what happens next. Well, when I read that letter, when I saw that my mother had agreed to settle, I sat at my kitchen table for a long time. 27 years, and she had never once backed down from anything. Not an argument, not an accusation, not a lie. All it took was 1 worn-out briefcase and a man patient enough to wait for the right moment. But I keep asking myself, if Uncle Robert hadn't walked through that door, where would I be right now? Would I have fought back alone? Or would I have just disappeared? What would you have done? If no one had come through that door for you, would you have found the strength to stand on your own? Or would you have walked away for good? I really want to know. Tell me in the comments. Okay, let me finish this story. Millfield is the kind of town where everyone knows your business by Tuesday. My mother built her reputation over 3 decades. It unraveled in 3 weeks. At the Women's Fellowship at Grace Lutheran, the committee Patricia chaired for 12 years, quietly restructures in January. New leadership. New meeting schedule. The official reason, time for fresh perspectives. The real reason fills every whispered conversation in the church parking lot. Neighbors who used to accept Patricia's dinner invitations suddenly have conflicts. Every Saturday, indefinitely. The Christmas card count at our family home drops by more than half. Meanwhile, as something unexpected happens to me. At school, a parent I barely know, a woman named Linda whose son I counseled through his parents' divorce, stops me in the pickup line. "I heard what happened, Miss Hensley. For what it's worth, this town is better because you're in it." She squeezes my hand and walks away before I can respond. It's a small thing. But in a small town, small things are everything. Robert comes to Christmas at Aunt Ruth's house. Of 14 years since he's had a place at a family table. When he walks through Ruth's front door, Jenna is right behind him, carrying a pie she baked from their grandmother's recipe. Ruth pulls Robert into a hug so tight his feet nearly leave the ground. A week later, I find an envelope in my mailbox. No return address. Inside, a photograph. Yellowed, creased at the corners. My grandparents holding me at age 3. I'm laughing at the camera, and my grandmother's hand is on my head, but protective and sure. On the back, in her handwriting, our little counselor. I don't know who sent it, but I have a feeling it was a man who sleeps on his living room couch now and is trying, in his own quiet way, to give back what was taken. In February, the settlement is finalized. Evelyn Moore calls me on a Tuesday afternoon, and I pull over in the school parking lot to listen. Patricia agrees to return $40,000 to Diana and Megan, the grandchildren's education fund, and exactly as the original will specified. She returns $70,000 to Robert, his rightful share of the estate distribution she intercepted. The remaining $30,000, which Patricia claims was spent on family expenses but cannot document, remains in dispute. A matter for another day. To make the payments, my mother has to sell her SUV and draw from her retirement savings. The kitchen she built with stolen money is worth more than the car, but nobody's asking her to tear it apart. But the irony is enough. I received $20,000, my share of the education fund. I use it to pay off my student loans. Every last cent of the debt I accumulated because money that was meant for me was sitting in my mother's checking account the whole time. The remaining amount I put into savings, not because I have plans for it, because for the first time in my life I have money that nobody can claim I owe them. Nobody can wave a folded piece of paper in a living room and say I'm a burden because of it. It's mine, clean and clear. Megan refuses her half at first. You were the one who suffered, she says. Take all of it. I don't let her. I split it exactly as our grandparents intended. Equal shares, the way they wrote it. The way it always should have been. Evelyn tells me the county DA's office is reviewing the forgery evidence. No charges yet. Maybe none ever. I don't push. The legal system will do what it does. I've done my part. $20,000. That's what my peace of mind cost. $20,000 and 27 years of being told I was the problem. Gerald Hensley does not divorce my mother. Not yet, anyway. But the man who sits across from me at Rosie's Diner on Saturday mornings is not the same man who raised his hand against me on Thanksgiving night. He starts small. Weekly phone calls. Actual questions. Not the how's work kind, but the how are you really doing kind. He shows up at my apartment with a toolbox one weekend and fixes the leaky faucet I've been ignoring for 6 months. He doesn't say much while he works. That's fine. The wrench says enough. In January, he tells me something over scrambled eggs that nearly makes me drop my fork. I started seeing someone, a therapist. He says it like he's confessing to a crime. First time in my life. 56 years old, and I'm learning how to disagree out loud. He gives a small, embarrassed smile. Better late than never, I guess. I don't pretend this fixes everything. It doesn't. My father chose silence for 30 years. He chose comfort over his daughter. That shaped me in ways I'm still uncovering on Dr. Webb's couch every Monday afternoon. But I also know this. Change at 56 is harder than change at 27. Every appointment he keeps, every phone call he makes to Robert, at every Saturday he shows up at my door. That's a man fighting the current of his entire adult life. I don't need you to choose between us, Dad, I tell him. I need you to choose yourself. He nods, stirs his coffee, doesn't make a speech. My father isn't a villain. He's a cautionary tale about what happens when you choose silence for 30 years. And he's also proof that it's never fully too late to start speaking up, even if your voice shakes. 3 months after Thanksgiving, my phone rings. The caller ID says Mom. I let it ring 4 times. Then I answer. Her voice is different, smaller. The commanding tone that could steer a room of 25 people is gone, replaced by something thin and tired. Can we talk? I want to explain. I agree to meet, but on my terms. Not at her house, not in her kitchen. A coffee shop in Clearfield, the next town over. Public, neutral, my therapist's suggestion. I'm learning that geography matters when you're rewriting a relationship. We sit across from each other in a booth by the window. She orders black coffee, I order the same. For a moment, it almost feels normal. Two women, a table, coffee. Except one of them stole $180,000 from her dead parents and blamed her 13-year-old daughter for it. She starts. When your grandparents died, I was overwhelmed. The estate, the paperwork, the grief, I raise my hand, gently. Yeah, the way Robert did on Thanksgiving night. Mom, I'm not here to listen to explanations. I'm here to tell you what I need going forward. She blinks. She's not used to this. I lay it out. 1. You never discuss my finances in front of the family again. 2. If we disagree, we talk privately. You don't recruit an audience. 3. I choose which family events I attend, not all of them, not because you summon me. 4. You start therapy. Real therapy. Not a conversation with Pastor Dave over lemonade. She listens. When I finish, she stares at her coffee for a long time. And if I can't do all that? Then we stay where we are, and I'll be fine either way. She doesn't respond. I don't need her to. I'm not punishing you, Mom. I'm protecting myself. Those are two very different things. Christmas at Aunt Ruth's house is a smaller affair, 12 people instead of 25. The table is set with mismatched plates and cloth napkins that have seen better decades. It's imperfect. It's honest. And honest is something I haven't had in 27 years. I sit next to Uncle Robert. Jenna is across from us. Megan arrives with a sweet potato casserole, the first dish she's ever made for a family gathering herself, without Mom standing over her shoulder directing every pinch of salt. It's a little overcooked. Nobody cares. There's no circle of chairs. No folded speeches. No hands raised. Robert says grace. His voice is steady, but there's a crack at the end that he doesn't try to hide. For the ones who are here tonight, and for the years we'll make up for. Gerald arrives late, alone. He stands in the doorway for a moment, and I can see the effort it takes to be here, without Patricia, in a room full of people who now know the truth about his wife. He walks straight to me and wraps his arms around me. No words. Just a hug that lasts longer than any hug he's given me in my adult life. Jenna and I pull crackers. Kyle passes the rolls. David tells a terrible joke and everyone groans. Robert laughs, a real laugh, full and warm. And I realize I haven't heard that sound since I was 13 years old. Patricia isn't here. Nobody mentions her. Her absence is both a relief and a sadness, and I'm learning that both feelings can share the same chair. The turkey is overcooked. Robert burns the dinner rolls. Then the wine is cheap and the house is drafty. But when I look around the table, every person here chose to be here. Nobody was summoned. Nobody was performing. And that is the first honest holiday meal I've had in my entire life. I'm not telling you this story so you'll hate my mother. Patricia Hensley is a complicated woman. She's manipulative and controlling, and she stole from her own dead parents and pinned it on a child. Those things are true. But she's also a woman who grew up in a family where your worth was measured in dollars, where love came with conditions and control was the only currency that bought safety. She learned the game early and played it well, until the game caught up with her. None of that excuses what she did. But I'm telling you because I want you to understand. The people who hurt us aren't always monsters. Sometimes they're just broken people who break others because it's the only pattern they know. I'm sharing this story because I know some of you are sitting at that table right now. The end seat, near the kitchen, next to the kids, being told you're a burden by the very people who were supposed to protect you. And maybe, like me, you've heard it so many times you started believing it. So let me say this clearly. You don't have to prove anything to anyone. You just have to stop believing the version of you that someone else wrote. I learned that boundaries aren't walls, they're doors. You decide who walks through and when and under what conditions. And the first time you close that door on someone who's been hurting you, even if that someone is family, the guilt will hit you like a truck. I know. I still have nights where I wonder if I'm too harsh. Then I remember 26 hands. And I know. I'm not harsh. I'm just finally learning to stop putting other people's comfort above my own safety. Uncle Robert taught me something I'll carry forever. The truth doesn't need to shout. It just needs the right moment, the right paperwork, and enough patience to wait. It's March now, 4 months since Thanksgiving. I still work at Millfield Elementary. I'm still a school counselor, but I've started studying for an advanced certification in family therapy. Part of the tuition comes from the settlement. My grandmother's money, finally doing what she intended it to do. And Megan and I meet every other Wednesday for coffee at the cafe on Elm Street. We're learning each other as adults, without my mother narrating who we're supposed to be to each other. Last week, Megan told me she's been thinking about going back to school too. Maybe social work, she said. I want to help people the way you do. I almost cried into my latte. Robert is back, fully back. He was at Ruth's for Christmas, at Jenna's for New Year's, and then last Sunday he showed up at my apartment with a fishing rod and a thermos of coffee. 14 years of trips to make up for, he said. Gerald goes to therapy every Thursday. He and Patricia still share a house, but he told me their relationship is being renegotiated. His word. The fact that he has a word for it at all tells me how far he's come. My mother hasn't called since the coffee shop. I don't wait by the phone. The door is open if she ever decides to walk through it honestly. But I'm no longer standing at the threshold, hoping. I used to think being cast out by your family was the worst thing that could happen to you. Turns out, the worst thing is staying in a family where you have to pay. In silence, in shame, in pieces of yourself. Just to belong. I don't pay anymore. My name is Diana Hensley. I'm 27 years old. And for the first time in my life, I don't owe anyone an explanation for who I am. Thank you for staying with me until the very end. Yet that means more than you know. If this story touched something in you, if it reminded you of a boundary you've been afraid to set, or a truth you've been sitting on for too long, please hit like and subscribe. Not for the algorithm, for the next person who needs to hear this and hasn't found it yet. And if you're wondering what happened next, how my mother responded to the settlement, a conversation I had with my father that changed everything between us. And the letter I received from someone I never expected, that story is waiting for you. Check the link in the description. I'm Diana. Take care of yourself tonight, and I'll see you in the next one.